idea that what DC did is they just recently kind of launched their little alpha beta map of what they plan on releasing up to 2020.
Oh yeah, yeah, all the movie releases up to it.
And they even have some casts, like they're casting some of it.
Yeah,
Right.
new
So
Flash.
it's becoming more real. Yeah, for sure. Green Lantern, Cyborg, Shazam, Aquaman, obviously Wonder Woman, which we've been hearing already a
Mhm.
lot about.
Well, hey,
Uh,
like Dwayne Johnson as Black Adam is the greatest stunt casting that's ever been cast. It's
It's
perfect.
amazing.
right.
I personally love everything that Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, does,
Yeah, me too, man. Yeah.
and he's a pretty cool guy. And he actually was brought. They came to him to be Shazam,
Hmm.
and he said, "Listen, I read the comics, and I'm no Shazam, but I will be your Black Adam."
He's
All
perfect.
right.
He's so like no human being is gonna look as much like as Black Adam as that. You know, he should
Yeah.
get to play Black Adam, and then he should just go over and play Namor at Marvel. Like a really punked up. Totally like you give him that haircut and that he could be Namor for sure, man.
For sure.
Macking on Sue Storm.
But I think what we should do, especially because everybody and their uncle is talking about some of this casting, but what do we think is like the main story that is going to be told to introduce all these characters and not just Shazam, but Cyborg, Green Lantern, being
Well,
reintroduced.
well,
Where are we going?
it feels like what DC decided to do was take the Marvel formula and do it in reverse. So instead of doing a bunch of individual movies that lead up to one big movie, I think fucking Batman versus Superman is going to be a hot mess, and it's just going to have so much shit thrown into it, right? And so many
It's
people.
funny we were talking about that earlier. Yeah, I think
Especially,
we all agree.
No, I don't agree with that personally. I feel that if Batman and Superman does it properly with small, like I agree with you. If
Right.
you're gonna, you can see that, especially with the casting so early, when they're casting Aquaman now, and they don't plan on doing that movie for another 4 years.
yeah,
Why are they casting him so early? It's because they're gonna want to. You're gonna want to see him in either Justice League or Batman versus Superman, which we'll
yeah.
call
Do it for
Justice League
Superman.
Zero.
Do it for
As long as they do it in a small dose, like maybe you see, is it going to be Barry Allen, Wally West? I don't care, but do you see just Barry Allen, not the Flash, in a
Yeah, yeah.
shot? That would be fine with me. Or like Pat was talking earlier, in an after credits, do you see a couple of them?
Yeah, that's going to happen for sure. If nothing else, that
I
absolutely.
want that's all I really care. If they do that right and
Mhm.
only introduce, because I know they're going to talk about Wonder Woman and Cyborg, but if they don't bring in the rest and they just kind of, yeah, Batman versus Superman, there's Wonder Woman and Cyborg, just kind of showing that this whole world's starting to explode. And there's a cartoon, and I can't think of the name of it, but there's a cartoon that kind of does that in it's a movie cartoon where Batman and everyone's just meeting for the first time,
Okay, yeah.
Right.
There's a couple like that, right?
There's
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
They
Yeah.
do
and
that
I think it's
over and over.
Yeah.
Brainiac or something's going.
Okay, yeah, yeah. That
Hmm.
was one of the series I think that
I
you're
think
thinking
so.
about. Right at the beginning of the series, they're all introduced, and Brainiac's the main villain in episode one.
No,
Uh,
it was definitely a movie I had to rent.
well,
So
that just goes to show how many times they've done it.
Hell yeah.
But I
I
think
feel that's what they can do here. Is what they're going to do is like the idea of you're going to meet Batman meeting people and Superman meeting people and like you're saying a reverse story, but it won't have to be a hot mess because I've seen them do it with Justice League movies a lot.
Yeah, well, I
yeah, but
hope
that's
like don't get me wrong, I want this to work in the worst way. I first of all, I'm not that confident in Zack Snyder as a director. I
hmm,
did not like Superman, like Man of Steel. I really didn't like it that much. I I'm
I
worried.
see. That's the opposite. I went into it late. I had heard all the people talk how bad it was, and I went in with very low expectations when I watched it.
Okay, I went in with high hopes.
And when I went in with low expectations, I came out going, "Well, that was a lot better than people were giving it."
Yeah,
I actually
I think.
really enjoyed it, and I was
Yeah.
critical of the points that people were talking about, like, "Oh, Superman killed," and I was like, "Okay, no, that makes sense to me." Oh, he was throwing them through buildings; people were dying like crazy. And then when you see the scenes and you rewatch them, every scene of someone going through a building, you see that the building's been evacuated, and they even kind of give you an idea that all the buildings are doing that. When Perry's like, "Okay, everyone out of the building."
Mhm. Yeah, and those are honestly the least of my concerns because like even to say that would be hypocritical because it happens in the cartoons all the time. Superman
yeah,
throws guys through buildings, like it happens, you know. And yeah, they got to try to get evacuated. I'm not even talking about the destruction. It's there's a lot of other things I had problems with in that movie. I didn't like
yeah.
Pot Kent.
Pa Kent dying is the one thing about the movie that I forget about, and I personally like. I believe I put a black out on it. You
Yeah.
brought it up, and I went, "Oh yeah, that," because
Yeah,
he
it
should
was
have
done
saved him.
so well. Yeah, it was just done so poorly. Like, if you look back to like the original Richard Donner Superman, right, in the '70s with Christopher Reeve, um, Pa Kent dies of a heart attack, which is phenomenal because Superman can't stop that, and that's the point, right? Like,
And,
shouldn't
and and that's
and
I
that's
think what they were trying to do here too, and give him that one moment.
but
But
Superman could rush in and
that
like
was the
grab
problem.
him and save him, and like
But
like
here's the other
nobody
thing
would
that
see
I
him
do
do it.
say
Like,
I
it
understand
made
what they
no
were giving him.
sense.
They're giving him the idea of the with great power comes great responsibility kind of story. Like you can't, the
Uncle
world
Ben
can't
needs
know that.
yeah, but
That's kind of what they felt like they were trying to push on me. Where they're
okay,
that's
I can see that, but I mean, my argument for that is Uncle. There's no way Uncle Ben would tell Peter that maybe you should let a busload of kids die. Maybe that was the right thing to do. Like, I was just like, oh my god, this Superman is gonna have so many problems. And then yeah, he ended up this angsty, broody moron instead of, Clark Kent. Like, because God and I know I catch a lot of flack for this too, but God forbid we have a hopeful Superman movie. And a light Superman movie. Like all these
Well,
Avengers movies can do serious stuff, but still be
yeah,
light. Like
yeah,
Superman doesn't have to be Batman,
yeah.
and they tried to do Superman as Batman, and the whole movie was just like, this is sad. Like even his costume's dull. It's not bright. He's Superman. What's wrong with that?
Well, I think they're trying to reboot it too, because we can say whatever, but Superman's, at least in movies and films, been kind of dead, and it's been hard to
Yeah.
reboot the character. So there was a lot of risks taken with this first
Yeah,
movie.
like I want to see Superman punch some dudes and fight some villains, but I
Right.
also want to see
No.
Superman be
Yeah.
happy while he does it and not, I don't know. They
So
nailed it.
the one thing I can say about that Superman that you're talking about, the one that we're seeing in Snyder's Superman,
Yeah.
is the
yeah.
movie I was talking about was a very dark overture. It's the one I gotta find the name of it. It's like Total War or
Mhm.
something like that.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And what they do is Superman is an alien. Um, Batman has gone to Metropolis to figure out what this alien's doing. Kind of what you kind of feel Batman
Mhm.
versus Superman starting with, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Green Lantern shows up because of who Batman's fighting, and those two kind of interact, and then Batman steals Green Lantern's ring, blah 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 blah, showing you how cool Batman is. Whatever
Right.
that's that.
I
But what
remember that.
happens is those two end up having to go fight this Superman that just showed up, who's kind of a brooding, not good guy Superman,
Mhm.
and it's kind of very similar to the Snyder Superman that he made in the movies. So if they're going down that Avengers, that Superman was more of a dickhead, like he was more of like I'm Superman and I'm better than everyone, and that's that.
And I don't know if that's the right thing to build a film franchise on necessarily. Is all I'm saying. But see,
Well, it
and I
would
gotta
have to
say,
end in this movie, right? It would
right,
have to be
exactly.
caught.
He'd have to cover it out. See now,
Well, by the end of that cartoon movie, Superman was Superman, like
Right.
the one that
Right.
we all know and
exactly.
love.
Yeah.
Right.
I gotta say, my partner Shauna brought up a really good because we argue about it all the time because she really actually enjoyed Man of Steel a lot. And
Mm.
her argument is because I have a problem with the Zod killing, right? The snapping of Zod's neck.
I love
Yeah.
Zod's death.
I have,
Like I think he needed to do
I
that
have a billion problems with that, and I'm not even going to get into them. But Shauna's argument is that's going to be the moment that sets Superman on his moral compass, and
Yeah.
that's the turning point that makes him Superman. And that's the closest thing I can see to being able to deal with it in this movie. But other than that, I have like an infinite number of problems with that.
Well,
Well,
the
it's because
I'm
it's
not
an
even,
origin story that fits in a
yeah,
lot of like future story for Superman,
yeah.
but it's still his origin. So by the end of this movie,
Yeah,
you
and it's not
know,
it's not that specific. It's not Superman killing because Superman has killed, and
yeah,
and he
Steve.
had to kill in that scene because the
Well,
thing is yeah, he didn't have to kill because of that. He may be able to stop him from killing that family, but
yeah,
that family that he was about to burn was a symbol for that Zod wasn't going to stop. Zod kept telling him, "You have to kill me." Like
right,
yeah. But
Zod
that's the
wasn't
thing.
going to stop.
So that's the thing. Zod was right. Right, great. The villain was right, and the hero had to break his morals and kill him and do an evil thing to
Well, there's
avenge
no
the real
prison that was
world.
going to hold
But
Zod
yes, there is. It's called the negative zone. It's like Superman's holding there for a billion years. Why can't we write that into our superhero movie? That would
because
be easy
for
enough.
the same reason that you don't just jump into the negative zone in the Marvel universe right away. It's a little hard for.
Well, they might have hinted at something like that where Zod was hiding for
Apologize,
years.
Phantom
So
Zone.
it
But
was,
no, they should have thrown him into the Phantom Zone. Like, I
yeah.
mean, we've already got like space pajamas that show up on a suit from like a bajillion years ago and have a cape for no reason, and
Yeah.
like things from that make a lot like no sense at all. Don't even like.
But even just moving on, guys,
I mean,
from
yeah.
Superman, right? Like, here's the first confirmation for most people. We already knew this because they've been kind of saying this year, but Flash being cast as this new Ezra Miller guy, that confirms that we're not seeing the TV crossover. We're not going to see,
Yeah.
Ollie from the TV show as the Arrow in the movies at all either. So,
Yeah.
uh, I think that's the first big confirmation of that. I don't know how you guys feel, but for me, that's a big blow.
And they're going to be
But
casting
still,
him as Barry Allen. So
Yeah.
they're actually like going to say like you're going to be watching the Flash TV show, and then
have
they're
they
going to
said
retell.
that though?
Well,
I'm
right now,
pretty sure they haven't.
IMDb has it announced as him as Barry Allen in the movie
Okay.
The Flash.
See, and I'm on the opposite.
IGN didn't report that. Yeah.
I'm
Sorry.
on the opposite of you, Pat. I actually could not be happier that they're opposite universes. I think
Could be good.
DC
Yeah.
I think the DC shows do really well together. This gives us the opportunity to tell two different kinds of stories and
Yeah.
take different takes on characters without
Yeah.
having to shoehorn everything into the movie series. Because I mean,
For sure.
DC doesn't make the best film decisions all the time. but
I
they
I
they
want
make
my
really good
Arrow.
TV
That's my
decisions.
biggest thing, right? That's the
And
only.
and this is the thing that let's bring that up. They didn't bring up any kind of Arrow character or
Nope.
movie, obviously, but
Yeah.
Which
any
is
kind of even character in this universe.
which is great. Leave Arrow on the
Yeah.
show. He's awesome. We don't
Yeah.
need another version of Arrow because this one's basically it already. And
Yeah.
you're going to open another, and that just takes up another
He's
spot on the team.
rewriting Arrow right now, I think, because
Yeah.
even the recent comics are heavily influenced. So
Oh, yeah, totally.
give it
It's
some time and reintroduce Arrow into the major
And
team.
Put it in
Ezra
the-
Miller
put
as
it
the
in
Flash.
man.
They're actually looking at doing this story like I brought up in the Easter eggs of last week. They're doing the story of the lightning bolt strikes a tray of chemicals that soak him in.
Mhm.
So they're going to do the actual origin of the Flash in the movie.
Yeah, which is cool. Like, which is
I
just
think-
as fine. The new origin was neat too. Like,
Yeah, well, I mean,
really
it'll be
nice.
good that it's two different origin stories though, so that you can really feel the different universe.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we're going to see obviously origin story for not all these characters, but Cyborg. I think we're going to see it too. They've go ahead, yeah.
No. I was just gonna say when it comes to this, like Cyborg and the way like Cyborg's
Yeah.
origin stories, and even the Flash is like with the original chemical. I think DC has to embrace their weird side, right? Because
For sure.
DC's got gods, real gods, and not alien gods, like they're actual gods and monsters and guy that can punch.
Well, that's it. Like when they bring in Wonder Woman, I'm hoping that they bring her in as because when I was looking into her and trying to explain to her to Norm, who doesn't know Wonder Woman at all, I was looking into her and basically, if you remember the old '90s TV shows Xena and Hercules,
Right.
Yeah.
the Wonder Woman I'm hoping we see is Xena that has Hercules' powers.
Totally. See, now the only
She's part god. She's a demigod.
Right.
Now the only thing I've heard about this is officially they are going with her new origin, not her original. So the original was her mother Hippolyta crafted her
Right.
out of clay.
Yeah,
and then
I've
breathed
seen that.
life into her so that she was made of no man. You know, she was
Right.
woman from woman, and she was the Amazonian spirit. The new one is she's the daughter of Hippolyta and Zeus. So like Hercules, she is a demigod. She is female Hercules.
Yeah,
essentially.
that's
Which is
awesome.
still that's so much easier for TV audiences to swallow. Like
It's- yeah.
everything is weird as hell.
Right.
Like DC can't be afraid to get weird. They should own that. You know, like look at Guardians.
Those are both weird though. Those are just different kind of weird, right?
I prefer the idea of that Hercules Xena mixture. Zeus father. I don't mind them.
It's a lot easier to swallow, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think no matter what people are thinking right now, that's going to be hard to swallow. Think about someone explaining you Thor 10 years ago, being introduced to like an Iron Man universe, and people would have been like, "Yeah, I don't see it. It's all,
People didn't want to watch the Thor movies originally because of that. Like they didn't actually, and for to use the opposite version is my wife wasn't into the Marvel comic book movies at all.
Yeah.
And then I went, we're watching a movie about Ancient God, and she was like, yeah, and I went, yeah, and I kind of fast forwarded over the Marvel part, and she watched this movie about Thor, and at the end Nick Fury showed up, and she gave me this funny look, like, did I just watch a comic book movie?
Right.
And then now she's into them though. But like,
Well, yeah, people have a preconceived notion, right, about what's good. But like, look at this past year. Like, look at Captain America. Look at a lot of these
Right.
movies. They're really challenging the idea of what a comic book movie is.
For sure.
so
Yeah.
like Thor, like using the Thor versus the Amazon princess,
Mhm.
Wonder Woman and Thor are very similar characters, and when we can buy Thor, we're gonna buy Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I think she's not. I think Aquaman's probably the hardest one, or reintroducing Green Lantern, which shouldn't be
I
hard.
think the reason
But
that they're putting Green Lantern at the 2020 at the very back end of this
So we
yeah,
can
is
get all that Ryan Reynolds out of our mouth.
yeah, just keep it like that bad taste, and there's so much time between like
let her breathe a bit more. It's not.
yeah.
We're not ready.
But Aquaman, I agree with you. Like I see like Jason Momoa. How do you say his name?
Momoa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Momoa. Okay, so that guy, he looks like an amazing character to play Aquaman.
Mhm.
He doesn't have blonde hair, but that's a wig, so whatever.
No. See, this
Is
what
it? Yeah.
this is what I think is going to go down. There's no way they're going to make him Arthur Curry, like blonde hair Aquaman. He might be called Arthur Curry, but I think because of his look and he's Polynesian or he's a Samoan guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they might make him look like Calder from the Young Justice cartoon, who's darker skinned and he had like the tattoos and
Yeah,
stuff like
yeah.
Just embrace the
Yeah.
actor a little bit too.
Yeah, exactly. Use that idea, and I mean that could be a way to reinvent Aquaman and give him like he can make like the hard projectiles and
Well,
stuff, and
the
hard weapons out of
problem
water magic, basically.
the problem with Aquaman is he's the butt of everyone's joke, and anyone who even talks
Thanks,
DC
Robot
Justice
Chicken.
League is Aquaman becomes the joke, or like people like he's the worst character or this and that.
Yeah.
But the sad truth is that if you really read Aquaman comics, he's a badass prince of the end. Like if you
He's
like
so awesome.
Namor, you should love Aquaman. He's Namor plus.
Yeah, he's a badass. He really is.
And that's why-
he can fight Supes. Like no problem. He can fight Superman.
Yeah. That's why I think he might get a little bit of a redesign, at least in look. Same guy, sell us the same stories, but
But
a
yeah,
little
the
bit of-
orange scale suit, blonde hair. I don't think. Yeah, you're right. We
Or they can go-
repackage him, right?
it's like Falcon,
Well, they've done
completely. By the time we got Falcon in the movies,
Right.
there was no suit, there was no Falcon on his shoulder, and I still loved him, right? So
Yeah. Well, they've done so many different things along with Aquaman over the years too. We can get crazy hook for a hand Aquaman. We can get like sword and sorcery Aquaman wearing like armor and carrying a sword. We could get so many different kinds.
I'm hoping for the hook hand personally. That is like the iconic version of Aquaman that I like.
Yeah.
Harpoon hand, like that.
Big
That's just
shaggy
part of what I
beard.
like.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter really. I just want them to really show off that Aquaman is not the joke that everyone thinks he is. He really is a pretty badass superhero
I think
that just gets no love.
Momoa will get that done.
yeah, I don't see that being a comedy with him casted. I mean, I think he could do it, but I think we're gonna get a more serious take for sure. So
Yeah. And talking about like reinvention or different ideas on characters too. Have you heard Carrie Kelly? They might be going with the female version of Robin.
Yeah.
In Batman versus Superman as well, which is pretty exciting. I'm down for
Yeah.
that. I'm totally down.
I
for
had caught that, and then that's the one from the Frank Miller stories, right? Like you're saying. So
that. Yeah.
The one
I've
thing that I
only-
read about that too is that there's that 30 years. Like Batman's already been in Batman versus Superman. Batman's been Batman for 30 years already, or something like that.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and they actually even go that one of the Robins is already gone.
Yeah.
Like they just kind of hint at it that you're not even going to get that story. You don't like. Are they going to give us a prequel on Batman? Like when you're looking at
No.
all this casting, you don't see another Batman movie. Batman's only going to re-show up to us in the Justice League movies, maybe
Yeah.
as a crossover character.
And
So
then
are they thinking about going? Okay, we gave you that there was 30 years. Now we're going to go back and go. Here's the 30 years without any other superheroes. Only Batman was around.
That'd be
No.
pretty cool. And recast a younger Batman.
Recast the younger Batman.
And just
down the
like,
road.
That's
right?
what I mean. Like after 2020.
And you know what you
But
do? You recast a younger Batman, and that's probably the deal that Affleck made, so he could fucking direct those movies. Because he really wants to direct, right? That's what he wants to
Yeah.
do.
And then we get the story of like the death of Jason Todd, because I think that's like the Robin that they're talking about.
That'd be rad. See, there has been murmurs as well that there's going to be a Nightwing in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, there's
So that means
really-
like,
But-
so there's a theory that he's already gone through a couple Robins.
exactly.
Even if they
And
do
then
that,
there's
though, I
City
think
Walls.
TJ, I think that's down the road. That's like, what I mean, way down the road. And I think the reason they don't need to do that is because Batman is the only character they've been able to sell to us for 30 years, and we've
That's true.
consumed him in every way. So the audience coming into this, I don't care how broad they're trying to appeal, everybody's accepted Batman in one movie franchise, cartoon, or something. And so now they're going to try to take for the next couple of years, take a risk, and try to sell us everybody else.
Well, that's what I mean is
after
they're going to
Batman.
try and sell us everyone else, but I think that's the reason they kind of gave you that 30-year span. So if it does fail, they can just fall back on Batman again.
Or if it's super successful, like you're saying, like let's say this
Either way,
stretch is super successful, they're like, now we're going to go back and tell you the history of Batman in this universe. Because if it's not super successful, they ain't going to revisit it. They're just going to reboot it once again.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but having said all that, I think we've laid out the roadmap for DC for the next 10 years or whatever. But